happens, and we give all of our time to our Creator, because our Creator has perfect timing. And so that's what sometimes the university system doesn't understand, is we follow the time of our Creator. So that's just how it goes. So we'll go ahead and I'll open up with a blessing this way as our American Indian side, and then we'll open up. We'll have Asena and her family open up our blessing that way. So we'll go ahead and start. Good morning, Creator. Thank you so much for having us here. Thank you so much for bringing us in on this beautiful platform to reach out to one another. You know, Creator, people have feelings about this pandemic and what it's caused, and what kind of strife it's caused, and what kind of hindrance it's caused to our communities. But we thank you for it, because it's caused us to come together. It's caused us to slow down our lives and make time for our own self-care and our own self-healing, and make time for more time with you, Creator, that we could spend within ourselves, making ourselves better, really looking at the inside, where we are, where we stand, and helping us get to a place to where you need us to be. You know, we thank you for those things, Creator. We're thankful for everyone here that's able to make it. We're so thankful for all the blessings, you know, all of these scholars coming in. We're just thankful for that. Creator, we ask that you continue to bless this day, bless this webinar, and help us continue to reach our students wherever they may be. Oh, amen.
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you so much. And I'd like to pull up the next slide and ask Asena if she's ready with her parents. But before, we did want to honor and thank Asena, her family, and her parents for the blessing they're going to give us today, but also the blessing that they have given to us since the program's beginning in 2013. So thank you for that. We honor you and we thank you. And I'll pass it over to you now, Asena.
Good morning, Malolele, everyone. I am here, hosted on the land of the Wangwa and Ahafman. And I'm also with Dad, who is right here. But give me a second. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna share a prayer. And Dad's on, so I'm gonna turn off my camera so that you don't get any feedback on your end. So just give me 1 second. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this morning. Okay.
Malo ke tau lotu o tua mafi ko ia ko tui ko ia ko pure au ni o mama kumau yai ko ia na ke whakatupu a mama kumau yai mau fia i mama ko ni ko uhi ko ofa mo whake a fiona ko ia i ko tu ngai mau kau whataha i he aha koeni i mau atu e whakamalo mo whakawheta i ke te koe ko ia e ki o mau hanga atu e ki ko uhi ko e whanonga anga taimi mo e whenga o kwhai he punga mo whanua ko ia e ki o mau kau whataha mo e mau kau ngā whanonga ngahi matakari ke i e polo kalama ko e ni ko uhi pe e ki ko e whenga anga i whanonga anga i mama mau iai mau lotu pe e ki o tuku atu ka te koe a polo kalama kotoa whakahoko i he ngau e anga koe ni tu ke hoko ia ko mea ke ne tataki e whono anga mau whono ngai i he mama o mau whono ngai whai tāpu e ki na arifereti mo e katoa e kau whai whatongia i polo kalamani ia mo ki nau tolu kotou nau hau ke nau whanongo ke hoko pe e ke whai whatongia mo i ngau e whai ke mauai ha lerei ki he tau tupu o nau alohake ke hoko ki nau tau koe kakai ke nau tataki ai pure anga e ki he siasi mo family ko ia e ki o tunga e lotu mamahe ua ko ni whai tāpu e ki na whakatahani ka tuku pe e ki ke hoko ko ha monu mo tāpu a whakamore ia ki mātou mo mā ngai tau no ko tō pe ko ia mau kore ngai meandi i he hua whau sisu Christ ko alo a ko mau whamu ui e meni.
Amen. Thank you.
Everybody,
Thank you, Papa
Shannon.
Tayone. Thank you, Asana. And thank you, everyone, for joining us in that.
Thank you, Papa.
Thank you so much for that blessing. Thank you for helping us start our day. I know that as a MPI participant and being a part of MPI for all these years, just starting off that way always made it feel great, knowing that we were going to come in a good way, come in with these blessings from our communities, knowing that that college is hard enough. Coming into a place like UCLA is hard enough, and we couldn't do it without the blessing and blessings of our community members and our creator standing behind us. I know that I couldn't be here without my creator standing behind me and leading me the way through that way. So thank you for always starting off that way. Also, the next portion we'd like to go into is introducing you to Alfred Herrera. Alfred Herrera, I just want to say, is one of my mentors, one of my people that I look up to. I'm so honored and so blessed to call him friend, because I remember when the program first started and he asked me to sign up for the program, and I couldn't at the time. For a couple of years I couldn't do the program, and he chased after me and chased after me and chased after me to do the program, and it's because of his chase that I was able to get into UCLA and finish this year. And I'm not the only one with that story. There's so many of us with that story about Alfred, about how he chased them down to get them into the university and then fought for them once they were here. So without further ado, we're going to have the man, the myth, the legend, Alfred.
That is funny. Thank you. And I'm still chasing Donnie to this day. I thank you, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for being here, and especially to Asena and her father, Tayone, for the blessing. Sena has been a guiding light for us as well throughout these last few summers as we've put this program together, and it is it is an honor to be able to help host this. And again, thank you for joining us. We're excited to bring you our next series, CCP Power to the Transfer. And for today, obviously, the Native American Pacific Islander community is our focus, and this community is special in that we need to really work hard to make sure that they become part of our institutions, because it's through education that we're able to make some changes. So again, my name is Alfred. I'm Assistant Vice Provost and Director of CCCP. I've worked at UCLA for almost 40 years. I'm a first generation college student like many of you here. I'm a proud Chicano from Baldwin Park in the San Gabriel Valley. I'm a fourth generation here in California, and I come from a low income family. I'm the fifth of 6 children, and my mother and father are Henry and Alice Herrera. And I say that because, like I know you do, to honor your relatives, honor your parents, and speak their names. So As some of you know, and it's really great to see those of you who are former NPI participants. As some of you know, we've had to change the planning and programming. So we had to launch this because of the COVID pandemic. And so now this is our new way of connecting. So our goal here is to provide you with some critical and important information from a social justice perspective to help guide you on your transfer path. This is not a session on admission, so we're not going to be talking about how to get into UCLA or any other university. That's going to happen on October 10th, and you can see in our slideshow information about that. But this session is really about to learn about the stories and pathways for people from people much like yourselves who are blazing trails by entering the university, graduating from the university, and moving on to the workforce, graduate and professional school. So we really want to tell the stories about how students like yourselves are doing it. Our intention here is to assist you and refer you to the programs, services, and people at UCLA and other universities who help make that transition to a university smoother. Our commitment is clear. We want to motivate and inspire you and empower you to take ownership of your education, to learn what you need to know, help guide you on that path until you reach your goals, whatever those goals may be. Your commitment should be to learn as much as you can. You should ask a lot of questions and set goals for yourself. Challenge yourself and turn those fears into energy to drive you to reach those goals. And of course, as is custom in your communities, you need to turn around and make sure that you help those behind or next to you, so they might have that same opportunity to realize the goals. One by one, we change the narratives of the communities. And as you know, it takes a village, and we have one here. And of course, we couldn't do this if we didn't have people who came before us. So we stand on the shoulders of so many giants, and we could talk about all of these different people who have helped each of us. And there are people who stand out in my mind, and Wilma Mankiller is one of my sheroes. Dolores Huerta is another shero. But we stand on giants like that, and people that have paved the way for us to get here. And it is really important that now we have this responsibility to show you, and yours soon to show others. That's how we do it in this community. We stand united and we stand proud. So now is the time. As you know, we're in challenging times in a lot of different ways. And it's important for us to take a stand on issues that are important to you. And I encourage you to vote if you're able. And if you're not, then I encourage you to encourage others to vote, because through voting, we can make changes. So let's take control of our own destiny. It's our time. And as Dolores Huerta always says, sí se puede. Thank you. Next slide. So we're asking our full-time staff to introduce themselves so you'll know who they are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Santiago Bernal. I'm the Assistant Director for the Center, and I'm really honored to be here today and to be able to share space with all of you. Thank you for allowing an immigrant like myself from El Salvador to be here. I am here in the US because the US was in my country in the 80s. So yeah, I'm also excited about what the day is going to be like today. Thank you, Alfred. Thank you, Sena, for creating this important program. Thank you to the student staff, Shannon, Donnie, Mai, and everyone else who assisted in the creation of this virtual space. As Alfred mentioned, we are under these conditions, but that doesn't mean that we cannot continue to create community. And it's beautiful to see that our student staff are taking on that charge and doing it so well. So thank you for all that you're doing, and thank you for all that you will continue to do throughout the year as well. So I look forward to getting to know all of you at some point or another. I look forward to working with you, and thank you for allowing me to walk with you along this path in your transfer journey. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Claudia Salcedo, and I serve as the administrative coordinator for the center. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Asena and her father for the beautiful blessing and for starting us off this morning this way. And also thank you, Asena, for having this vision. And when I think about NPI, I think about you and your family being the common thread across these last 7 years that MPI has been in existence. So thank you all. I look forward to sharing space with you all, and I look forward to 2 wonderful days of different workshops and presentations. And thank you, Donnie, thank you, Shannon, thank you, Mai, and thank you, Alfred, and everyone else that supported in putting on this webinar today. So thank you all, and welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I am Chele Gonzalez, Program Coordinator here at the Center for Community College Partnerships. I myself am a first-generation college student. I transferred from Santa Barbara City College to Chele. So shout out to anyone from the land of the Shumash 805. I welcome you all to our space. It's nice to virtually be sharing space with all of you today. We're here to support you in any way that we can, so please reach out. And thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It is a blessing to be able to share space with you all. I wish we were in person, but this is an excellent alternative, and it's going to be a great day. My name is Jewel Bourne. I'm also a program coordinator here at the center. And I am, like many of you, I'm a first-generation college student, first generation in this country. My parents are South American immigrants from Guyana, so I'm very honored and blessed to be able to honor them in the work that I do with the center. And I just want to say thank you all for allowing me to be in the space with you all and to learn from you all. And I know that it's going to be a great day. Just echoing what Chele shared with you all, ask a lot of questions, and we're here to support you and to be in community with you. And I'm looking forward to a great day. And so, yes.
Thank you, Jewel. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Blanca Alcantara Hershey, and I am the office coordinator at the Center for Community College Partnerships. And just like most people here, I'm also a transfer student from Santa Monica College. So woohoo, go Corsairs. I am a guest to this land, which means that I am an immigrant. And, I was just grateful to have all the support from the center, and that's the reason why I'm here. So this is your program as well. So please, like everyone said, ask questions, and if you need anything, we're here for you. So welcome again, and I also look forward to all the sessions. I'm here to learn and share space with everyone. So welcome. And also shout out to everyone who has kids out there. I know working or studying from home can be challenging, but your kids are welcome. So if they're running around, that's perfectly fine. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was on mute. I was like, what's going on? I think Santi likes to say, I'm on mute is the most famous phrase of 2020, and I agree with that phrase. But good morning, everyone. My name is Cinnamon Mantley. I am the program coordinator for Pasadena City College. I am a proud transfer student. I transferred from Pasadena City College to UCLA. So we are here for you to support you. I am honored to be in this space. I'm excited to sit back, listen, learn, and just be a part of this in any way. So I am extremely grateful. I'm grateful for you all for being here. It is Wednesday at 10:54, and you all are here on Zoom by choice. So thank you for that. So we just are grateful for each and every one of you, and we're excited for the day, and I'm excited to see what I'm going to learn today. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power to the Native American and Pacific Islander Transfer Experience. First of all, I would like to thank Sena and her father for the beautiful blessing, and also the coordinators and the planning committee for putting together, this amazing webinar. My name is Gabriela Abraham. I work for CCCP as a program representative. I am a first generation non-traditional parenting student. I transferred from Los Angeles Valley College to UCLA. I am also first generation immigrant from Mexico, and I'm a mother of 2 children. I went back to school after more than 20 years. My daughter and I, we both transferred from a community college to UCLA and graduated together in 2017. My son is attending Pierce College at the moment, and he will be applying to 4-year institutions this fall, which I'm excited. And we have, we joined the CCCP family since 2012. Thank you for being here, and get the most of the webinar and enjoy it.
Thank you. We have one other staff person who was not able to join us today. Her name is Sherry Lai, and she is our program coordinator for our LA Los Angeles Pierce College partnership. So thank you, Shannon.
Yes, thank you, full-time staff. And just right now, we wanted to take this time and acknowledge as a partnership through our center, the Center for Community College Partnerships at UCLA. We wanted to acknowledge that our institution and our work is primarily done on the Tongva, on the land of the Tongva people. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work for the Taraxam. And as a land grant institution, we pay our respects to our ancestors, our elders, our relatives, past, present, and emerging.
Hello, everyone again. My name is Donald Salcido, and we wanted to go ahead and put out our statement for Black Lives Matter. As an Indigenous community, as Indigenous people, we understand what it is to be under the first assault, the first to be assaulted by this nation. And so we stand with our African-American brothers and sisters who are going through colonization and the experience of colonization now during this present time. So our hearts go out to them and to those families.
Welcome again, this is me. It is clear that we are in the middle of some challenging times, and it is up to every single one of us to help protect each other, to ensure that we do everything in our power to stop the spread of this very dangerous virus. Do your part, please wash your hands. And if you do go out, please wear a mask. Make sure you cover your nose and stay 6 feet apart, physical distance from each other. Thank you.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about tribal critical race theory. So CCCP is grounded in critical race theory and uses it as a tool to explore disparities along the community college educational pipeline and also to find solutions. Our Native American and Pacific Islander program is specifically grounded on tribal critical race theory. And to find out more about CRT and tribal CRT, please refer to the articles that are posted on the registration website called Whose Culture Has Capital? A Critical Race Theory Discussion of Community Cultural Wealth by Tarayoso, and also Toward a Tribal Critical Race Theory in Education by Brian McKinley and Jones Brayboy. Thank you.
For our sessions today, we will have a couple of grounding guidelines to keep a safe and mindful space for everyone. We ask that you treat everyone present and participating with respect, and that includes commentary in the chat. We ask that you please keep your microphone muted unless you have been selected to speak. As much as we like to see everyone's beautiful faces, we understand that that may not be possible, and that's perfectly okay. In fact, we ask that you please actually keep your video off as much as possible, since that will help with internet connectivity. Additionally, we will have folks monitoring the chat. So throughout the sessions, please feel free to ask any questions, engage with the content, and we will be responding that. We will also try our best to save time at the end of each session for Q&A. So we ask that you ask your questions at the end or write your questions down. Again, you can put those in the chat. And additionally, we will be recording the session. So we ask that if you're not comfortable, sorry, to please turn off your video or change the way your name appears using the rename feature. Thank you.
Hi, everyone again. So as you may be aware, we have a packed agenda for over the next 2 days, an agenda that is filled with information that is so relevant and so necessary and so important. And we ask that if you are able to join us for as many sessions as possible, as the sessions all connect to one another. And the information that you'll be receiving is all incredibly important information. So we ask you to stay engaged with us over the next 2 days. We realize that they're long days and that we all have things going on. So we just encourage you as much as possible to stick with us, as well as the fact that there will be an opportunity to participate in a raffle at the end of the session. So thank you all, and I hope you enjoy the day.
Thank you to our full-time staff and for Joel for getting us started with our day. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first session, which will be headlined by La Faitella Lydia Faitalia. But before she gets started, I'd like to introduce the individuals who will be opening for her, which is Pastor Ilu and First Lady Alo Lafo from the Compton Samoan Seventh-day Adventist Church. Thank you.
Is it being recorded?
Is it my turn?
Yes, Pastor.
Thank you, Shannon. You know, it's really an honor to and a pleasure to be in this forum, to be in this platform with this platform with all of our Pacific Islanders and Native American. You know, I don't have the experience of knowing what exactly this is about it, but as I'm listening and hearing, this is a wonderful thing that's being done for our Pacific Islanders as well as our Native American people. Before I say something, I'm actually really proud to be connected with Shannon. Shannon's grandmother is a member of our church family here, as well as the speaker, Lydia Faitalia Ioane, La Faitele Ioane, who will be speaking after this. But she asked me to say a little something before we turn it over to her. But I'm going to read something real quick. And one thing I told Lydia is that one of the most dangerous things is a mic for a pastor. So I'm going to take just a few moments to say a little something. And it comes from the book of Daniel, Daniel chapter 1, verse 17. And it says, as for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom. In chapter 1 through 3 of the book of Daniel, it tells the story of God's action in the lives of 4 young Jewish boys who were forcibly removed from all that they knew growing up in Jerusalem. Their names were Daniel. His name was changed to Belteshazzar. There was Hananiah. His name was changed to Shadrach. There was Mishael. His name was changed to Meshach. And Azariah, his name was changed to Abednego. They were ripped from their families and friends and made to live in a country that was not theirs. Not only were they given new names, they were taught a language different from theirs, given food different from theirs, educated in and about a culture different from theirs. They were literally in a foreign country, and all that they were experiencing was foreign to every experience that they had in Jerusalem. Now, in spite of the culture shock and being forced to immerse themselves in Babylonian culture, they took some things from their upbringing in Jerusalem. And I want to suggest 3 things that I believe that parallel everyone on this forum. I want to suggest 3 things that these 4 young men took with them to Babylon. Number 1 is they took their culture. They took the culture of their people with them to Babylon. Now, we know the old saying, you can take the kid off the hood, but you can't take the hood off the kid. And for us as Pacific Islanders, you can take the kid off the island, but you can't take the island out of the kid. And because we're here, I know I'm speaking to some very proud people, islanders who embrace everything about who we are as a people. And when you live in a foreign country or a different place than what you know, we long to return to something familiar because we find safety in familiarity. As I heard some people, their first generation to this country, saying that they're guests, you know, some of us are guests, not those who are on this forum. But when my kids were in Michigan for school, they couldn't wait to eat things like bisupo and pilkaki and wahoo. These are canned foods. And they long to eat these things because they find comfort in what is familiar. Now, it's okay. Listen, it's okay to be super proud of who we are, but let's not be prideful, because we can be fully proud and not have an ounce of arrogance in who we are. Stay humble. The second thing that they took with them is their family name. One thing that older Samoan people will do is ask in Samoan, oi, oi, who are you? What village do you come from? What family do you come from? For Samoans, and I would imagine most Pacific Islanders and Native Americans, the roots are just as important as the fruit that comes from the tree. Trees with good, strong roots tend to bear good fruit. Now, these 4 young men would not and could not forget all that they've been taught in Jerusalem. These 4 young men were likely in their mid to late teens. So we're talking about young people who are void of their support systems, but they took their family name with them. I'm super proud of the young Pacific Islanders and natives who are leading this forum. And we may have different last names, but I think we're covered under the wider umbrella of Pacific Islander and the native names. And the last thing that they took with them was their God. Religion and faith is vital to all, and I mean all Polynesians and natives. I'm happy to hear that even in a forum like this, that we make time for God and faith. I don't know a single Pacific Islander who wasn't brought up in a faith community. And like Jewish culture in the Bible, there were 2 main institutions responsible for the upbringing of a child, and that is the family and the church. Those 2 institutions would be responsible for planting God and faith in the hearts and the souls of persons. The early foundations of any person regarding God, faith, and religion are formed in those early years. But if it's to grow and prosper and bear fruit, then there's a personal responsibility. At some point, we are given the freedom to be all that God wants us to be. And here's the tie-in with the text. As for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom. God gives all these things and so much more. So wherever life takes us, take your culture, take your family, and absolutely and without apology, take your God with you. Now, Lydia's going to follow. I don't know the format, but I'm going to pray, and then we're going to turn it over to Lydia. She will be our speaker, and I believe that she has something to say to this forum today. Let's pray. Father God, we come before thy throne. It is now time to hear the appointed speaker. We pray that you will use her. Let her be a mouthpiece. There are people who need to hear her story. We want to thank you that she has the courage to be able to share this story with everyone on this platform. So once again, in a mighty and a special way, we pray that you will be with Lydia as she speaks. This is our prayer. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. And
Welcome.
thank you, everyone who's just tuning in. And now I'll turn it over to our first presenter. And the title of her presentation is Heartworking in Tribal Communities and Strengthening Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Pastor Lafo. Thank you, Papa Tayone and Sister Asena, our CCCCP family, Donnie. Before I begin, I'd first like to acknowledge that I am currently on Duwamish territory here in the Pacific Northwest, in Covington specifically. And it is important for me to honor our Duwamish folks, the past, the present, and the emergence, and that I stand in solidarity as we continue this fight of social justice. And I stand alongside you as a Pacific Islander woman, Indigenous to the South Pacific. So thank you very much for holding space. Well, if you can all unmute and say hi, because I miss all of you. I see you all on here.
I know that.
Hi, Lydia.
Hello, my babies.
That's right, sis.
You know, we got to keep it 100 in here and what NPI really
Keep
does.
it real, look. And I was like, hold on, I need to say something.
Talofa and Malo and Le. My name is Lydia Moira Faitalia. Now it's La Faitele Lydia Moira Faitalia. I left UCLA as Lydia, but came back full circle as La Faitele. I want to honor my elders that are on here, our Pastor Eli Lafo and Mama Lafo that is on here. And I want to go ahead and begin. I also want to acknowledge all of our NPI scholars that are on this call. I know it has been a ride, but I see you and I'm here and I'm coming back for you. This is an emotional call, but I want to start with introductions. So positionality, yeah? So my grandmother is Sula Safotu, my late grandmother. From Salelolonga, one of the educators retired from the American Samoan education system. My grandfather is Matimo Safotu. He's from Lauli'i. My grandmother is from Salelolonga. I was blessed to have two grandfathers, so I have another grandfather who is from Kafua. My mother is Faitulia Ioane, who passed in 2015 during my time at UCLA from colon cancer. And then my father is Puava Ioane, who is Samoan, but I also have a Tongan father. So I'm half Tongan, half Samoan, to clear the air and keep it real. One thing, the reason why I labeled this topic, you know, as we all know, COVID-19 has, everybody keeps saying, highlighting the inequities in our communities. But I want to tell you that I'm here to unpack this journey with you and why it is important for all of you on this call to join in on this fight. My advocacy, and I was raised in an Adventist family, Seventh-day Adventist family, rooted in a Methodist and Seventh-day Adventist family. I was born in San Francisco, Ohlone territory, and then raised in Sacramento, but also spent some time in LA. And before I moved to the Pacific Northwest to Coast Salish territory, I spent some time in Tongva territory and in Los Angeles. It is important for me to draw all these relations, and it is important for me to acknowledge the land, and I will start to explain why. The advocacy started with my grandmother. My mom was young. She immigrated. She came to the United States in 1980. She was young. She attended community college and got pregnant. And so she didn't choose the route that my grandmother took, but everybody has their own path. And I want to remind you, everybody has their own path. My mother and father split, and my mom ended up remarrying a wonderful man who filled the shoes and more, and still continues to be present spiritually. Growing up, my mom was realistic. She couldn't afford to take care of me from birth to 5, so I had the opportunity to be raised in a Samoan household with my grandmother and many other relatives that are on this call. And so it was interesting watching my grandmother and her kins talk about land, talk about fa'alavilavis. As all of you know, fa'alavilavis is a hard word for some of us. I used to be the kid that would sit in meetings and pour the tea, and a lot of us can relate to that, doing the chores. at first I didn't understand why they would drag me around to meetings, and I didn't understand why my grandmother would sometimes be at another elder or Matai's house until 2, 3 in the morning. But it was her way of showing me what my role would be in the community without really telling me. Am I making sense? If I'm making sense, go ahead and put a comment in the box. And so the one thing my grandmother told me is that we always must center God, right? And so she was always drawn with the pastors, and growing up, she always would tell me, remember your Tautua, your service to your people. You belong to the land, and you also must acknowledge the land that you occupy. She didn't say it in those words, but she had ways of saying it, right? So growing up, it was very interesting. I have a very different lens from a lot of our PI folks. I've had the privilege of going home to Salelonga to meet our families. I've had the privilege to be in culture, to be in community. So fast forward time, um, I remember kindergarten when I first started school. My grandmother made me go to school at 3, and so I remember watching her fight for me to not go to special education. And a lot of you on this call has heard this story. It wasn't that I didn't understand what was going on. It was that I just had a different way of learning. And for the first time at a very young age, I watched my grandmother go to bat with the elementary school to keep me in a regular classroom. And she would always tell me that the United States is a different country. We must always stand, and we must always stand for what is right. And so I want to encourage you guys all that we must always stand for what is right. Fast forward time, my mother came back, and by then she was ready. And I am the oldest of 8 siblings. They're on this call as well. And now my sister is getting ready to have a baby. So that's amazing. Fast forward time. I'm sorry. I'm just a lot of wonderful thoughts as I'm seeing you all on this. When my mom and dad were in Sacramento, they were always serving the church. Always serving the church. And it was at one point, I believe I was like 13 or 14, my dad, we had moved to the Strawberry Manors is what you call it in North Sac. And I remember my parents already starting to align their relations with people of color, but also Native Americans. It started on at a very young age, their alignment, right? And trying to navigate these difficult spaces, right? I was translating for my parents, although they spoke somewhat good English, but sometimes the forms were difficult for them to understand. So I was translating at a very early age. And that's how I really became fluent in Samoan. 1, the church, and 2, translating for my parents did miracles for me. And so the journey in Sacramento was very interesting. We lost everything. My father got ill. We lost everything. He had an accident at Walmart my senior year in high school. And the journey took a turn from there. And so my father, what he did was he dedicated his life to the church and to the service of others and to the community. By then we ended up moving to South Sac at Oak Park. For some of you that are Sacramento, I see Sacramento in the house. And my father collaborated with PAL and another Black organization to feed the homeless, and then brought it on to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the Samoan Seventh-day Adventist Church. So you see this beautiful collaboration with the Black community and the Pacific Islander community in servicing the communities around us. That was the first time that I really started to understand my journey with my father and my mother as they were serviced. Their hearts belong to the service of our people. And then I started to really watch the way our pastors operated. I started to watch the way our chiefs operated. And I found myself in spaces that were predominantly men, to be honest with all of you. And I know a lot of you are going to have questions about being a woman in this space, and we can talk about that further. But fast forward time, my father ended up getting sick, getting weaker. And so him and my mom ended up moving to Loma Linda, California, where they were taken care of by the best hospitals in Loma Linda. And at the time, both of my parents were undocumented, and I'm sorry to go back and forth, but both of my parents were undocumented. And that was interesting to navigate as well. And so I stayed back in the Bay. I moved back to the Bay Area, and I worked at the airport. I held a corporate job for United, and did HR management, worked my behind up, hit a glass ceiling, and then was told that I need to go back to school. And I was pissed off because, as we all know, we have to work to provide for our families, right? And being the oldest child, that it is a responsibility in the Samoan community to take care of your parents and support your family. So I was 20. Oh, I'm old. I'm enjoying aging. I was 23 at the time, actually 26 at the time. And so I remember calling my father and telling him I lost my job and they told me to go back to school. And so I went home. I went to Loma Linda, and I was telling my dad, I was like, you know, I worked so hard. I've worked so hard. And I was pissed off, is why I went to school. And my dad goes, you know, you got time. You got time. Go to school. Chase that degree. So that way nobody can ever tell you no. So I enrolled in San Bernardino Valley College. I was 26 at the time. I enrolled in San Bernardino Valley College. I was 26. And it just happened that I was in the same class as James Ramos' son, who is now in the California House. And I remember this Native kid, and you know, I was like, okay, I'm in college. I don't know how I'm about to survive, right? And we were on one income at the time. My dad was still applying for Social Security, and because he's worked, you know, in the United States, but he didn't meet the cutoff for the Reagan administration back then. I'm taking it way back. Anyways, fast forward time. I'm smiling because I'm cracking up at this journey. So at 26, I play volleyball because, as we all know, community college in California is impacted. So if you don't, you know, get priority registration, then you're stuck in the line with everybody else, right? And so I had to be quick, and because I didn't have time, I was 26. And so I remember telling my mom, and I felt for my mom, and I was like, I'm going to go to school, and I know it's going to be hard. Finances is going to be hard, but we need to figure out how to get where we need to get. And so she goes, yeah, go to school. So I went to school, and anyways, I met this kid, and then I met more friends, and I said, I think I'm going to take my behind and go play volleyball because we get priority registration. I haven't touched the volleyball in so long, 100 pounds later, and here I am going to play volleyball because I was like, I think that's the only thing I can get priority registration. But it just happened that I met a Chicano woman and a Black woman who work in EOPS. And as I'm talking, their names will come to mind. And they were like, what's going on? You know, they saw me, and I said, well, I'm struggling. I'm struggling because I can't afford to pay for college and also take care of my parents. And I didn't know about all these resources. So they started helping me with the resources. And so I played volleyball. I played college volleyball. And I'll never forget what it took me to get out of San Bernardino Valley College. And I'm going to tell you, family, what it took. What it took was the elders and pastors and the wives of my church supporting my education journey. Although some of them didn't understand, including my parents, they understand that when one comes up, we all come up. And so I remember that there was a disconnect between the institution and my community, meaning that San Bernardino Valley College didn't understand Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander people. They were still learning about us. We were more than athletes, right? And so I had to bridge that. What was I good at? Relations, right? And that's an indigenous practice that I grew up in. And so when I would tell my mom, God bless her heart, she would tell all the elders, even when I would win a little scholarship. I remember I won a little scholarship for $100, which I ended up using to feed all of them at Hometown Buffet. But she would tell all the elders and all the pastors, you know, every time I got an award in college, she would say, oh, my daughter won this thing, you guys should all come. And as we know, it's reciprocity, right? We invite all our people and then we feed them. And so my parents were good in that way. But I want to highlight that this journey took a whole nation. Everybody says a village, but no, for me, it took a whole nation, a whole nation. And so I remember my aunties who spoke limited English, and they would tell me in Samoan, they would bless my journey, you know. And I remember one time specifically, I needed to raise funds for my honor societies program. And so what I did is I went to the Dorcas, Celia, if you're on here, Shay, if you're on here, and I asked them to make egg rolls with my mom so I could sell it so my fees for this club could be reduced. And they did. And that was the beginning of bridging. And that was the beginning of me learning my position in my community and my whaasingo manga and my va between the community, the institution, and my indigenous people, my Native brothers and sisters, how it all is supposed to come full circle. So I transferred, I remember I transferred into UCLA 2012. I was out of Valley College 2010. And it was transformative when we first stepped foot on campus. And many of you know that my mom attempted to pay my $40,000 tuition with our rent money. She had a lot of faith and a lot of courage with my dad, you know. And I remember the pastors prayed, the elders prayed, Salelolonga prayed, and here I was in this campus, less than 1% of Native and Pacific Islanders. And that wasn't a new story. It's across the nation that we have less than 1%, sometimes 2% if you're lucky. So I started my journey as a poli-sci major, and I hated it. And I remember meeting Asena Filihia, who I later on realized that she was married to my Tongan first cousin. And I remember telling her, I need to go home. I'm tired. This is all great that we're here, but I don't have support and it's lonely. And, you know, I was making up all the excuses to turn away from this journey of UCLA. But she pulled out a book and she would remind me and she would feed me, right? She would feed me with good. She filled my cup, introduced me to Alfred Herrera, who is on here, introduced me to other sisters. You know, we have Claudia, and sorry, I'm naming off of the top of my head. But it was when I ran into Clementine Bordeaux. Clementine,
I'm here.
Yeah. Clementine. Clementine held space for me in the American Indian Studies department. I understood Matai, I understood Fa'asamo, I understood Fanua, I understood Tautua, I understood Adventism, but I didn't understand how it connected. And Clementine broke that open. And she mentored. And I remember going to her and I said, you know, sis, like, this is hard. And she goes, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And she sent me to Renee White-Eye's office. I don't know, Renee, are you here, sister? And then soon I took a class, and it was with Dr. Dwayne Champagne, who made me think about relations, who took it out of the community, who took it into a different context, and he explained it and unpacked it with me. I'm telling you this story, and I'm telling you because they didn't have to do that, because it came from here, the heart. When something comes from the heart, it's different. You know, you don't say, oh, it's 5 o'clock, we're done. No, UCLA American Indian Studies Department, UCLA CCCP, our NHPI programs that are on here, it came from the heart. Alfred Herrera, thank you for holding space. Asena, thank you for holding space. Sister Clementine, Dr. Teresa Ambo, Dr. Ellen Harju, Tosa, my NPI scholars. They took me to a whole nother realm that connected all of my life's experiences, and I trusted them wholeheartedly. And I'm crying because I haven't seen them since my wedding, because these are tears of happiness as we kind of journey down this path. Fast forward, I decided that it was time. By now, Clementine, I was having issues in academia. You know, I was having issues in academia, and those of us that are on here who has transferred to institution, it's a whole different ball game. Am I right? It's a whole different ball game, and when we're talking about being in a institution, rigorous institution like UCLA, we're talking about research methods. We're talking about game changers. We're talking about rising to you know, whatever the Western education has. You sink or you swim or you produce research. But what kept me in the institution was Clementine. What kept me in the institution was my circle. But as I watched people like Dr. Randall Akey, Dr. Mishwana Goldman, Dr. Michelle Ladai, Dr. Dwayne Champagne, I saw myself. I saw myself in them. I saw myself because those were hard workers, right? And they spent hours with our Native and our Pacific Islander students. And so I started to spend more time with them, like how I would spend time with our pastors and our elders. I no longer had access to that. It was too far, or I was just not in the mindset to go home. But one thing I started learning is my position at UCLA, but my position when I leave the academy. When I left the academy, and I'm gonna fast forward because I know we don't have much time. I then moved to Washington with my partner. My partner is from Upolu. And so it was Clementine and my Indigenous sisters that helped that transition. And I struggled moving here. Because in the academy, you're in a bubble, right? But in the community, it's time to put what you learned into action. And so the transition from the Pacific, from LA to Seattle, was difficult for me. And that transition was easy because it was my family from the academy bringing me here and welcoming. And I had a welcoming team. I think now, and I had, you know, Sister Srilan Hokano, who's on here, Sister Kiana Fuenga. I have family. I have family that that connected all of the links. And so I now sit on the, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of how good this, I rarely reflect, but as I now think of that journey and I think of all of the loss and the pain, I've learned to heal and grow. And my accountability is to you all that are on here, and your accountability is to the next generation. And a lot of people ask, how do you know what to fight for as a Pacific Islander woman who is a program manager in the Native organization? And my response is, Fanua, land. Whose land do we occupy? When we go home to Samoa or to Tonga, a lot of people, we always think, right? We always get welcomed into the village, into the spaces by whoever's land it is. We have to keep it 100, right? Whose land is it? And then understanding where I've come from, but how does that play into civil and indigenous rights? And I'm going to touch it. I'm going to touch a little bit about this because it's important for me to tell you guys that it is important for us as Pacific Islanders to understand that we are guests on this land, right? And I'm going to tell you why. Everybody is advocating for civil rights, and I completely understand. But we also need to understand that with us going to advocate for social justice, we also must be mindful of the whanua that we occupy, right? And so the more we fight for our own sustainability and our own rights, the further away from opportunity another community is. And I'm saying that from my experience. I'm talking about our indigenous people, our Native American people. I'm talking about the lands that we occupy. I'm talking about how when you look at data, there's discrepancies and there's not enough data on Native Americans and there's not enough data on Pacific Islanders. I'll tell you why, because it's problematic as fuck. And whoever is collecting all of this data needs to be mindful, and they're not aware of our community's history and trauma, right? And so I want to make sure that I tell you MPI scholars and I tell you Pacific Islanders that it's important to keep these indigenous relations because it's in your DNA and in your blood. You must always honor our Native Americans, and it's their whanua, right? As they are fighting, and because their political status is different, and we can get into that later, they then have to continue to fight for all of this. And then we have our Black brothers and sisters, our Chicano, right, who all have stories, beautiful stories. And so as Pacific Islanders, I am holding you accountable, and I'm holding myself accountable to research, to do your research, to do your history. When you talk about social justice, when you talk about fighting for your rights, and you talk about this, to really unpack what that means, right? And also the spirituality, how that plays into it. This journey would not have been possible with the hands of my Native American brothers and sisters, and I say that loud and proud. Kevin Hale, who was one of my good friends, used to watch my father while I go to school, and he he used to watch my dad while I was in class, right? Sometimes I wouldn't have food, and Claudia Salcedo, another indigenous sister, would give me the leftovers. Like she wouldn't even have to, she would know, right? She know, because that's indigenous relations. That's heart work, right? When your heart is in something, you don't even have to say nothing because your people know. Right? Alfred Herrera, like your people know, they'd have events and they knew I had my siblings at home in these apartments, right? And I had to take care of, they'd send me home with the plates of leftovers because people know those are indigenous relations, right? Those are indigenous relations. So I want to go ahead and end so that way we have lots of time for Q&A. And right now I am the vice chair of Catholic commissions in the state of Washington. I carry Lafaitele. Lafaitele is a Matai name from Ngeyafu. I was invited back because of the service that my parents and generations before me has done. I have reaped the blessings from that. I am still connected with my community back in California. Once again, those are all Indigenous relations. Pastor Eliu Lafo, thank you very much. Claudia, Santi, Jewel, all of you that are on here, all played a vital role in this. And if I could leave you with one thing, NPI scholars and future, our future, is that you always serve from here, from the heart. There's no need for lateral oppression. There's no need for lateral oppression. And this program for CCCP and has done amazing work with our communities and has brought game changers into the institution. And because they chose to Tautua, and Alfred chose, and Chele chose, and all of our families and Clem chose to reach back and come back for us, we must do the same. That's important. We must do the same. We must always do the same. So without further ado, please ask away. I want to give you guys plenty of time to go ahead and ask. And thank you for having me today.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much, Lydia, for being here. Like I said, Lydia was my peer mentor and continues to be my peer mentor as I journeyed through UCLA. I loved having Lydia as my peer mentor, I just want to say, because we all have that story, we all have that path. And my path was really similar. It took a really long time, was a non-traditional student. And so I needed her very much. And we both had that Indigenous relationship that we carried together, and we still carry. We have that realness that we could bring to each other, and I just appreciate it. And that's what it is. That's what CCP is. These relationships that you have with everybody, and I'm just thankful for that. Lydia, can you tell us more about your work? Can you tell us more about the work that you're doing now in the community?
I currently, I'm here in Pacific Northwest. I currently work for United Indians of All Tribes Foundation. My hats and my gratitude off to Bernie White Bear, who was our founder. He has passed. United Indians of All Tribes is very special, as some of you may not know the history with how United Indians came about. It was at the forefront of the social justice movement. It was born out of the social justice movement. And so it's located in Magnolia, and it is an honor that our Native brothers and sisters there has allowed me to work alongside them in serving all of our Indigenous communities. So I am a program manager. It's called Inamaka on Track Birth to 5. Specifically Birth to 5, but I also run the food program as well as the social justice program at the King County. And so what I do on a normal day is I basically hold bags for all of our community members. It can go anywhere from homeless population, immigration issues, complaints about housing, healing, creating, connecting referral resources for our elders and our children to get healing from someone that looks like them. With that work, I also connected to CAPA commissions, which is it informs policy. So both of my jobs inform policy in regards to the Pacific Islanders and Native Americans. If they ask me, if our elders, if our Indigenous, if our Native American folks ask me to sit on, then I sit on. It's up to our communities. So that's some of the work that we are doing here. We are working on some policies because of what's going on with COVID in regards to hate and violence against BIPOC communities. So we're working on some of that stuff, and along with our other Native organizations like Mother Nation, Chief Seattle Club, Seattle Indian Health Board, also Washington, Pika Josasaya, that is there, Kiana Fuenga at Pierce College, Suilan Hokano, who runs who the Native Hawaiian sister who's running the tribal program here at Enumclaw High School. I know it's not easy, sisters. We have Auntie Lua, who sits at APCC. We have Auntie Sili Savusa, ED Tuli from UW, who is now our ED. So there's a whole group of game changers that I have the opportunity to learn from. So I just hold their bags and they tell me where to run.
Awesome. Awesome. Can you tell us about your commission work, what you're doing on the commission?
Yeah, I tell people off. I basically tell people off. I keep it 100. Sister Clementine always used to tell you, just keep it 100. You know what? You're right. I do gotta keep it 100. So my commission work, although we are housed with our Asian brothers and sisters, it's very interesting work as we are shifting to disaggregating data. We're doing census. Yes, Mercy, we are hiring. So my commission work, and I'll be honest with you, is indigenizing that space. And how do I indigenize that space, right? Because a lot of us, we're not model minorities, so we fall under this API umbrella, which is problematic, right? Because we don't share the same lived experiences. However, we were some of the last immigrant groups that came to the United States. And so my commission works requires me to inform policy on Pacific Islanders specifically, but also my favorite thing to do, and Kiana, you're probably gonna laugh, and Sister Sulan, is position our people in their respective fields. So that's what I do, is I gather all our people and figure out whose talent is what, and then we pray about it and we try to make it work. So that's a little bit about what I do.
That's great. We were talking earlier about some of our favorite memories about MPI. And do you think you could tell us some of your favorite memories about MPI? What were your favorite things that you remember?
Yeah. My first year, I thought Clem and so Clem always had these bright ideas. She'd say, hey, can you do this? And I said, yeah, you know what? Yeah. And that was my sister's way of like showing me where my path, helping me along this journey. And so I remember her, you should apply to this, NPI site is going to be amazing. And I was like, what is this? I have to go to church. I got to catch the bus. I got to go to church, because then my parents were living in Inland Empire and my mom was like, you need to come home. But at the same time, I was like, oh, I have to help our people. And so she understood in that manner. She understood that I had to stay on campus to help our people. So some of my favorite memories of MPI was when I first met Alfred. And I remember him coming in. I was a little nervous, but I saw that Clem and Teresa, they were like, it's gonna be okay. And Senna, I met Alfred and it was over. He belonged to me, I belonged to him. We extended the relations, right? We extended it because, and when I say indigenous relations, I'm talking about practices, cultural practices that aren't part of the Western system. So by Alfred doing that, it's special because Alfred learned that from somewhere, and that's from his ancestors, right? And so Clem too, right? That's from their ancestors. And so a lot of my favorite memories was coming across people like my own, right? And I say you guys are my own because it's indigenous relations. We're all related across the work. And Alfred worked hard. And I remember him working with Teresa and Clementine and Dr. Harju and our CCCP family, right? And all of our peer mentors. That was my favorite time. And I'll tell you why. It's because then it shifted the way I looked at things. It shifted the way relations operated in the academic institution and how my people and my kins were using their resources to decolonize in their own way, right? To unpack. And so that was one of my favorite moments. My other favorite moments is when all of my MPI students would keep it 100 and do their dancing and traditional and brought their real selves to NPI. They brought it all. It didn't matter. And they were comfortable. This is who I am. And that was my reminder of this is where your heart is right now. is to bring them all up with my team, right? So that's some of my favorite memories. Um, I had a lot of good memories. I really miss NPI. It's my favorite memories. Watching Mishwana Goman move and groove, Renee White Eyes and Clementine present, and seeing their heart in presenting, and then offering help to transfer a lot of you that are on this call. Seeing my sisters model what it means to put heart into work, despite them going to school. Watching Donnie feed our brothers and sisters was another good memory. Mercy and Mai and Lingy and all of you sharing with each other, watching you all share space, watching you all stand up for each other, gave me life and hope. And watching our pastors support. And that's why Eliu Lafo and a couple pastors and Mama Lafo holds a special space in my heart, because they trusted it and they sent their kids, they sent their youth. That's what was special.
Thank you. Thank you, sister. So we have a question in the chat. It says, what's your advice for a first-gen college student about balancing institution, Tautua / service and family service?
Yeah. It's not separate. It's our way of life. It's not separate. Everybody thinks that it's separate, but it's not. Alfred's Tautua to me, Santi's Tautua to Alfred. It's all the same thing in different languages. And when I say that when you open up to your parents and you open up to your community, right? We all know, and put it in the chat box, who is the leader of our communities? So go ahead and put it in the chat box. Who leads our communities? Natives and Pacific Islanders, everybody put, everybody. Who are the leaders? No, not me. Us, okay. Elders, pastors, right? Who else? Our kapuna, yep. Who else? Elders, matriarchs, okay. What else? So you all pass women, yeah, spirit, right? Environment, elders, okay. So you all pass the test, right? We all know who's leading. So it is our responsibility now that we know who our leaders are, and when we know better, we do better, right? And so our Native American above us, yep. So when we know who our leaders are and who could help with that balance, that's where you're responsible to be in community with your people. A great example would be my parents, right? Although they were like, you can't, you pastor, you got your 2-year degree, but my parents were like, you need to just finish, right? But my mom was reserving because she didn't understand that. She didn't understand it. Yep, Tautua starts from home. Yes, Mama Lafo, and home to church to community. Yes. And so my mom, the best way to do it is she had a pastor talk to us about the importance of me being in the academy, right? And although my mom didn't understand, she trusted it because it came from a community leader. Does that make sense? She trusted it, which then helped me come full circle with everything. And so when we talk about balance, I was informing the institution about our values as Pacific Islander folks in the academy. And Clementine, I'm sure you're laughing, my uso. So many funerals, so many weddings, so many, right? It wasn't an excuse to get out of school. It was ceremony for us. It was sustainability for our culture, right? To go to church, right? That's ceremony for us. And so that's how I kept the balance. I would lean on Pastor Lee, I would lean on them. And there were times, and I say that kept me balanced because I'll be honest, there were times when I didn't go to church for a long time. And so when I saw that I needed it, I would go to church. And sometimes I would go with my father, and whether some of you know or not, we would have $2 to our name, my dad and I. And I had too much pride to ask anybody for help. But I would leave with a car full of konga'i food, and pastor and his wife would drop in $100, and we made it through the weeks. I'm talking, that's what helps with balance. It took a community and a nation that to feed me and my brothers and sisters so I could make it. And now I'm reaching back. I'm not reaching back, I'm lifting up. Um, I'm lifting up, and I want to give you all my shoulders. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I totally agree. If anyone has any other questions, or if someone would like to unmute themselves and add something before we finish and wrap up. Or Lydia, if you have any closing comments. Alfred.
Love you.
Oh, I love you too. My closing comments, and I wanted to just honor our folks that are on here, our nation. Mane Tuya Ana, I see you, brother. I am now in the Pacific Northwest. And when I say hardworking in tribal communities, strengthening Indigenous relations, that means being accountable to one another. That means picking up the phone, and I'm speaking for myself, and I'm not perfect, and I'm still learning, and I'm still in learning mode. I still have a lot to learn. That means that you check on others, especially during the time of COVID. That means that if there are resources available to your community, that you are accountable for sharing all those resources. It doesn't matter who's offering it, share it. That means that if there's a space like CCCP and you went through the program, and I'm talking to all of you NHPI scholars, you share it because you got the blessing. Does that make sense? You share it. That's your heart work. That's your love work. That's your strengthening those relations, right? Because nobody stands alone. And a lot of times in the Samoan, they say, meaning a lot of hands will make the burden lighter. It's your responsibility now, right? Well, I have a couple more years and then you all will take over. I have probably 20, 30 years. When I leave this world, whatever that means, it is your responsibility to serve the next generation. Okay, it is your responsibility to Tautua, but to also make sure that you are in alignment with our culture, your spirituality, your service, and that you always center the heart in the good. That's what I would like to tell you all.
Thank you. Thank you, sister. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I don't know about you, but that session, let's just go and let's take over the world in every aspect as we can now. So anyways, thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Pastor Leo and Auntie Alo for introducing Lydia and for the session. Before we kind of close this session, I know Alfred wanted us to introduce Clementine, who Lydia has been talking about. Clementine was also one of the founding and establishing women of this program. So Clementine, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, tate wachde nape chuzapi Clementine machapi. Hello everyone. Hello Lydia. I'm calling in from the Ocheti Shakoin territory, so I'm in my homelands in Rapid City, South Dakota. It's so wonderful to hear you, Lydia, and I'm over here cutting onions, but really like, crying with you. I am really cutting onions, but it's been a struggle for me these past couple of weeks, and to see you all. Damn it, I didn't want to get emotional, but to see you all here, all of the NPI scholars, past and present, and our potential NPI scholars, you all always made the struggle worth it, and made my time as a staff person worth it, because as Lydia said, it's not necessarily reaching back, but uplifting. So it's really awesome to see you all and the work that Alfred continues to do, and all of our scholars like Donnie and Shannon and Lucy and Malia I just really, y'all are our future and make all the struggles worth it. So I love y'all, and it's been really great. I'm looking forward to the next panel. I'll be listening in while I cook.
And I also wanted, sorry, I'm going to say this last comment. Sis, thank you very much, Clementine. And I didn't touch on this, but you know, the whole time I was complaining, our Native Americans have been fighting for their land back due to colonization. And so I want our Pacific Islanders here on this call to understand that not only did Clementine carry my labor of emotions with her, she carried her own. So I want to say thank you, sis.
Yes, thank you.
I just, yeah, Clementine, damn you. You got me too. It is truly beautiful to be in this space. It is always beautiful to be in this space with all of you, Native and Indigenous and Pacific Islander community. You bring out the heart in us, I think, in me, and bring out the importance and the significance of the work that we do. And for me, it has been a labor of love, a challenge, something that has been dear to my heart to make sure that we keep going. Regardless of how few or how many, we need to keep this on the, keep it in the front. And so I say to all of you who are here, it is really important for you to make sure that you participate, that you push forward and do what you need to do, that you inform others, that you help us build a stronger and a bigger program, because at the end of the day, it's about ensuring access success for you, whatever success means to you, whatever goals you have. And to see so many of the former, Lucy, Mercy, Ajana, and all of those of you that are here, I think it's just great. It's a testament to the work that's being done, not only by me and my staff, but by you and your community. And I think that's the beauty of what we're doing is we in the university are opening the doors for you to come in and to help us build this network. And so I'm honored to be able to, in the privilege that I hold as an administrator at UCLA, I'm honored to open that up and really help the community, because I know how critical and important that is. So to thank all of you for being here and to make sure that you continue to support the work that we do and we support the work you do is always very important. Lydia has Lafayette has a special place in my heart too, because she's always one of the people who really has challenged us in a lot of different ways. And so it's beautiful to see her and to have her appointed as a commissioner. I don't know if you all understand how important that role is, but to see her in that role, because yes, she's feisty. Yes, she's going to give them that 100%, but that's an important role to have our youth see a woman like her up there and doing the work is really important. And so, so I honor you and thank you for sharing that. And I want to come back to Clementine and Asena. I'm not sure if Asena's still here, but it is because of Asena and Clementine and Teresa that we actually have this program. And the community that was built from the day one when we first started this vision has remained. And so I am honored and indebted to those three women for really pushing forward to make sure that that space was open, the space was there, and that we continue to honor the Indigenous communities. And so I thank you for all that you have done and continue to do. And I know Clementine's working on her PhD, and we send her all the love and support for her on this journey. I know Sena has started her PhD journey, and we send her all the love and support on that. And we know Teresa has finished hers and is now a professor at UC San Diego, so we send her. So that's the power of the community, and that's the power of the woman. So I honor all of you and thank you for being here, and look forward to the next 2 days when we hear from other community members to share their stories about how, why, and so forth. So thank you all for being here. I'll turn it back over to Shannon and Donald.
Thank you, Alfred. And once again, thank you so much for presenting today, Lydia, and for everyone who's been able to attend this session. We will now be closing this session out and moving right. Well, we're going to take a quick little break, but we'll move into our second session, our student panel here in the middle, maybe at about 12:15, so we can give those of you who will be staying with us a quick 10-minute break, get your lunch, and then come sit and have lunch with us. If we could go back to the first slide, the previous slide, please. And later today, we will have the Streamer family presenting on familial supports through higher education. So we look forward to that, and we hope you can join us for that as well. And then tomorrow's sessions also. Yes.
So if I could just say something, if you are not planning on staying and you come back, you can use the same link to enter. And if you can stay on and just mute yourself if you want, however, but please join us, continue to join us throughout the day and then tomorrow as well.
Yes, thank you. And then the last slide, if you would like to send feedback to our presenter Lydia today, you can go to the link at the top or scan the QR code, send her some love, let us know what we could do better, things of that nature. But for now, I guess we will take a 10-minute break if that is good with everyone, and we will come right back and jump into our student panel. Thank you. Also, this room will be open, so feel free to just stay in the Zoom room.
Can we have someone put the music on a little bit low?